Okay, this is 1994. When's the last time you were in this hut?
Well, I was here a couple of years ago, but prior to that, not since 1957.
What is your sensation when you open up the door to come in? Or what are your first memories, as it were? A little human interest there.
Yeah, it's just, all the spirits are here already. I mean, just sort of saying hello to all the spirits.
Yeah. Where are they now? Are you in touch? Are they gone? Have you followed them at all?
One of them I still know. The others I don't know where they are.
They've just sort of scattered.
Yeah, that's right.
And not much cooking, kind of basic and all that. Okay, we're about to go. The last Zodiac is going. Some of this stuff is, as you explained to Marsha Green, is new since you came here. And there's a water bottle missing. Talk about the hot water bottle before we go.
Water bottle. I don't know. I don't remember ever having seen a hot water bottle here. But last time I was here 2 years ago, there it was. So, of course, I then had to explain to everybody that it wasn't mine, because I was far too tough to have something like that. But, of course, I couldn't really explain. There was no possible explanation for why it should be here. Now, oddly enough, I can't find it this time. It's gone.
Do you plan on coming back? You'll be back again soon?
Hopefully in about a couple of weeks' time.
Oh, so you'll be right back.
Yeah, but then for how long after that, I don't know. Maybe another 37 years.
Finishing up in Wally's hut, my group of 7 headed up an embankment, a slope about 100 feet up. A nice gentle slope. The ice was indeed easy to walk in. It was packed ice. There was no knee-deep problem heading up the slope. And when we got up there, up at the top of the peak, the easiest way down was to get on our back and slide down. So one by one, we did something that I personally haven't done in many, many years. Slid down the slope. And coming up right now is the slide itself.
We're about to slide down. We're going to try to slide down without losing the equipment. If the equipment is lost, then this is the I'll salvage the tape, but this is the last our last communication. Here we go. We're going to slide down. Let's listen to it as we slide. Watch out below! Oh! What the? Lord Shackleton, son of famed polar explorer Ernest Shackleton, called Wally Herbert a phenomenon, a man who has traveled further and more uncomfortably in the polar regions than any explorer alive today. And His Royal Highness, Prince Philip of Great Britain, called his 1968-69 16-month, 3,800-mile trek with 3 companions and 40 dogs, the first surface crossing of the Arctic Ocean pack ice, which historians call the last great journey on Earth, and the first on foot from Alaska to Spitsbergen via the pole of inaccessibility, a great triumph of human skill and endurance. We're with Wally Herbert now. Wally, talk about the first day of that incredible journey.
In a way, I suppose in a sense that the most difficult part of the journey was the first few miles of the journey, because we were not experienced at traveling on moving ice. It was dark, it was scary. I even remember the very first day of the journey being very, very sick, and the whole of the night before I was sick. And I imagine it's very similar to in World War I, when they were waiting in the trenches, to have the whistle was going to blow, and they were all going to run up over the parapets and go charging across no man's land. It was that kind of a thing, because we had absolutely no way of knowing whether we were going to survive this journey. I mean, no one had ever attempted it before. We didn't know whether the dog food was adequate. There was no way we could turn around and come back. I mean, the first step of that journey was the first step of a journey of nearly 3,800 miles, and we had to go right the way across or die in the process, because there were no airplanes that could get to us to pull us out. And so, setting off on a journey like that, you're right at the leading edge, the sharp edge of exploration. You're the pioneer. I mean, no one's ever done it before. And so you have no idea at all whether you're going to survive. And that is very scary.
Your work in the Arctic as opposed to your work in the Antarctic, what gives you the most satisfaction? Which of these have left the most questions in your mind?
I think, in a way, the Arctic is a physically much more dangerous environment to be in, because the sea ice is moving all the time. It's dark. You travel in the dark for a lot of the year. You travel on much more dangerous glaciers. The ice basically just behaves in a much more unpredictable way in the Arctic. And for me, all of my toughest journeys have been in the Arctic. So I have lots of painful and colourful memories of my times in the Arctic.
His Royal Highness Prince Charles, the current Prince of Wales, feels that one day Great Britain should mark your achievements by having you stuffed and put on display. How do you feel about being stuffed and put on display? And are they going to wait for the appropriate time?
I'm not too keen on the idea of being stuffed and put on display. But in actual fact, I mean, they came as close to it as I hope they'll ever come to it, when they got a tailor's dummy, and they put this up in the Scott Polar Research Institute in Cambridge. And they have a museum there, and behind this glass case is now a sort of a dummy which is dressed in my Arctic clothing. Now, the pity, of course, is that most of these dummies you see in shop windows are 6 foot tall, because they're all sort of macho hero type men, and they don't cater for people like me who are only 5'8". And so this dummy has clothes on which don't fit it. There are gaps in the clothing, and of course it looks ridiculous.
They may want to stuff you a little early after you were talking about the portal point, taking down the ceremonial taking down of the signs on your hut, if and when that gets back to Great Britain. How do you think they'll feel about stuffing you at that point?
I'd probably be delighted to, yes, but I think they'll find it very difficult to do, because they'd have to do it in an obvious sort of way. And by obvious, I mean through the newspapers. And so I think we'll have a wonderful battle on our hands.
Listening to your lecture just now, I remember watching with my family. My daughter was a year old at that point, watching Neil Armstrong land on the moon. And at that precise time, you were winding up in the North Pole for one of your great successes, but you were overwhelmed, I guess, the news because of Neil Armstrong being an international story. And when you arrived for the victory celebration, 2 women in a pushchair with their head, what were your feelings then?
Yeah, well, the amazing thing about it was, as we were coming into Portsmouth in England, all of the ships had got word of the fact that we were coming back from the Arctic, having succeeded in crossing the Arctic. And all of the ships were blowing their hooters and horns and all that stuff, you know. It was a wonderful experience. Even the Royal Yacht Britannia pulled out to let us use its berth as a sign of respect. But of course there were only just these 2 people in the pushchair, because the press hadn't been informed.
Were they happy to see you? The 2 ladies with pushchair?
I don't think they batted an eyelid. I don't think they knew what it was all about.
Before closing, we spoke of your wonderful paintings that you've done, and we're looking at them now. You had mentioned something about having these dreams of these paintings and then painting them. Speak about that, and also your painting of Prince Charles.
Well, what happened was that the very first painting was such a surprise to me. This was about 4 years ago. And I just really had burnt out with writing books. I've written 9 books. And my wife, who's a psychotherapist, said, okay, have a go at painting. I mean, try to work some of your frustration off with painting. And so I had to go, and I did one painting. And it was amazing. I mean, it sold straight away. And so I decided then to have a meditate about this and think about it. So I went into a state of meditation, and in this sort of state I had a vision in which I was sitting in a preview theatre in Soho in London. And it was a 36-seater, and I was watching on the screen some colour slides going through in sequence, and they were all of paintings, and some of these were very fine and pieces of work, and some were historic pictures, paintings of historic pictures. And I thought, well, you know, that student of art is quite clever. And then, to my surprise, I saw 1 or 2 pictures which could only have been seen by me, because I'm the only person in the world that's ever been there. So I thought, now how the hell did that student get to see those scenes? I mean, has he sort of had access to my colour slides or something? And then I noticed that my name was on the bottom, my signature, and the date. And so I sort of, in a way, questioned this, so challenged the vision to produce an answer to this. And the vision carried on and showed me all 26 pictures. And my name was on the bottom of each picture. And the dates were in sequence, and some of them were 3 years in advance. So at that point I began to get a little bit worried by this vision, particularly since number 27 was black. The screen went black. And the one before it, number 26, was a picture of Mount Everest, which seemed to be out of sequence with all the others. The others were Arctic or Antarctic. Here was a picture of Mount Everest. and then number 27 was black. And so I thought, when I get commissioned to do a picture of Everest, then I know that that's my last painting. And sure enough, of course, I was eventually.
And then finally, the painting of Prince Charles, sort of smiling. He wanted something of him smiling, and it's a wonderful likeness of him. It's really well done. And you also work with a scalpel, I know, when you do your painting. So I'm really impressed with the Prince Charles piece as well.
Well, I mean, the portraits are with
portrait, I guess.
Yes, the portraits are a very strange medium because they're actually more like drawings than paintings. They are on a sort of a white astrofoil which has a green printer's ink sprayed over it evenly. Now, if you scratch the surface of that, then the white shows through from underneath. And if you put pencil on it, of course, then you leave a pencil mark. So it's a combination of sort of taking off to get the highlights and putting on to get the darks. And so you end up with what is not really a pencil portrait because of this extraordinary scraper board technique. And it's very striking. It produces a very striking result. But fortunately I've run out of that kind of material, so I can't do any more now.
Wally, I'm going to let us go now. I guess we better go. Tea time is on right now. We're running a little bit late. I noticed the other evening some of the British on board here honored you with a book that they all signed. They were honored to meet you and spend time with you. I frankly had not been much into expeditions and that sort of thing, so I had not heard of you until now. I am every bit as honored to meet you and hang out with you and spend that evening with you in the lounge, and it's been great fun spending time with you, sir.
Well, thank you, Herb.
Well, that'll do it for this edition of Visions. Thanks for listening. Next up, we'll visit perhaps the most beautiful place on Earth, Paradise Bay in the Antarctic, and spend a wonderful moment on the water. Now, before closing, here are some thank yous. I want to make these thanks now. I want to thank Jackie Hummel and Mary Calderon and Felipe Castro of Lon Chile Airlines. And they're at 1-800-735-5526. That's 1-800-735-5526. I thank you, folks. Also, I want to thank Krista Branch, a good friend that we haven't met face-to-face, but we've spoken on the phone thousands of times, it seems like. She is with Abercrombie & Kent out of Oak Brook, Illinois. They've set this whole thing up and helped me with Lon Chile Airlines. They introduced me to Lon Chile, Mary Calderon, Jackie Hummel, and Felipe Castro. Their number is 1-800-323-7308. That's 1-800-323-7308. They're really good folks, and they can give you the world. These people are great. Again, 323-7308, 1-800. Also, I want to thank Ray Lugo Sr. for the free studio time, and my daughter Kimberly, who gave me a chance. I love you, Kim. Finally, I want to thank you, my listeners, for your time. Until next time, from somewhere else, for Visions, a series of visits to everywhere, I'm your host and fellow traveler, Herb Malzman.
I don't remember ever having seen a hot water bottle here, but last time I was here 2 years ago, there it was. So, of course, I then had to explain to everybody that it wasn't mine, because I was far too tough to have something like that. Mm-hmm. But, of course, I couldn't really explain. There was no possible explanation for why it should be here. Now, oddly enough, I can't find it this time. Mm-hmm. It's gone.
Okay, this is 1994. When's the last time you were in this hut?
Well, I was here a couple of years ago. But prior to that, not since 1957.
What is your sensation when you open up the door to come in? Or what are your first memories, as it were? A little human interest there.
Yeah, it's just, all the spirits are here already. Yeah. I mean, just sort of saying hello to all the spirits.
Yeah. Where are they now? You plan on coming back? You'll be back again soon?
Hopefully in about a couple of weeks' time.
Oh, so you'll be right back.
Yeah, but then for how long after that, I don't know. Maybe another 37 years.
Finishing up in Wally's hut, my group of 7 headed up an embankment, a slope about 100 feet up, a nice gentle slope. The ice was indeed easy to walk in. It was packed ice. There was no knee-deep problem heading up the slope. And when we got up there, up at the top of the peak, the easiest way down was to get on our back and slide down. So one by one, we did something that I personally haven't done in many, many years. Slid down the slope. And coming up right now is the slide itself. We're about to slide down. Are you in touch? Are they gone? Have you followed them at all?
One of them I still know. The others I don't know where they are.
They've just sort of scattered.
Yeah, that's right.
and not much cooking, you know, kind of basic and all that. Okay, we're about to go. The last Zodiac is going. Some of this stuff is, as you explained to Marsha Green, is new since you came here. And there's a water bottle missing. Talk about the hot water bottle before we go.
Water bottle.